Hi, this is Jesse from A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Podcast. Before we start this episode, I want to remind you that you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, the Google Play Store, podcast.com, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Enjoy.
Welcome to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Podcast.
I'm Jesse.
And I'm Eric.
And this is Wesley. Wesley, I have what has now become a tradition where I let our guests introduce themselves more than I do because you know yourself better than I do. I don't want to mess it up. What do you do?
What do I do? Well, I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter, a producer, and an entertainer, basically. That's the gist of it.
We've had quite a few entertainers on here. We've had one musician. I guess we're sort of getting into this thing. We just listened to some of your music before this podcast, which was an interesting thing. I think I'm going to go through more of it later. It's how did you get into the music side of things?
Just the way I was raised. I think my parents really love music, and I grew up under the influence of, like, you know, Carlos Santana, the Gypsy Kings, Sade, and just like really good real music. And then it just took off from there, really.
The main thing I was paying attention to was the vocals in the songs that we listened to, but what kind of instruments do you play?
I play pretty much any band instrument. Like, I play the drums, the bass, the guitar, and the piano.
Huh.
Guitar is definitely my thing.
Is that like a in studio kind of thing? You'll play all those instruments, or do you have like a band where you have to, pick one or two?
So like in the studio, I do all the drums and the bass and the guitars and the pianos and the production and everything. And then when I have a live show, I obviously can't be in 7 places.
No, you can't.
So if you could, we'd be super, super, super impressed.
Yeah, that would be something. But so I hire a band basically to learn all the parts that I compose, and then they back me up and we rock it out.
That works. That's a unique way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you had also said that you have a cinematography company as well. Like, do you?
I do. I shoot. I direct music videos.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
That's cool. That's kind of like the side project that keeps the bills afloat.
Really? For us, it's more of we've only directed one music video so far, and it's been a thing of passion somewhat, but it was a lot of fun, I would say. So that's the money maker?
That's the money maker. I mean,
really?
Only just recently have I started making money off Spotify and Apple Music in a high enough number that I'm like able to do something with, but
hey, that's good. That's an accomplishment.
That is an accomplishment.
Yeah, I'm so proud of it. I always say, like, when the check comes in, no matter how small it is, it could be $80 or $100 or $500, but for me it feels like 20 grand.
It's an accumulation of a lot of inertia, I guess, over a long time. So it's a payoff.
You know, when people are like listening to your music and you're getting paid to sit on the couch. Not that I sit on the couch, but figure of speech. I could be like in the shower and those numbers are running, and like it's kind of trippy, you know.
Do you find it addicting to watch your numbers go up, or do you just try to not pay attention?
I think everyone has an addiction to that stigma of life in the generation we're in, with the phones and the Instagram and everything. So yeah, I am addicted to checking my phone, but I tend not to care too much about it because I just believe enough in my sound and what I'm doing and who I am as a person to not care whether, something explodes and gets all this attention, or whether I have,
It was a good sound, as
It was.
he said. We listened, and I'll be returning to listen to more. So
It is a mark of an artist, I suppose, to not worry so much if it appeals to a mass audience or whatever, because it's what you love, or it's the love of the art at that point.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, music is a really good example where that's applicable. Photography too, but I guess we sort of get shoehorned into a lot of, the weddings and the portraits and things like that.
Yeah.
It's there's not a lot of very pure creative expressions out there, but I think music is probably, at least on the underground side of it, one of the purest anyways.
Yeah.
I don't really know what changes necessarily between that and mainstream music, but
I agree with you.
I guess just the mentality that the artists have, and then everybody starts calling them sellouts.
well, yeah, that's true. Some artists, I think, at a certain point, they know they're going to make money no matter what. So you can sometimes see it in their albums that they're just cashing a check, a really big check. But I over the past few years have appreciated more and more the different types of music out there. I used to be very narrow focused, and then really ever since Road Waves is when.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Road Waves, St. Catherine's band?
I'm not.
You're not? We basically got working with them a little while ago, but it showed, at least me, how popular the music scene is in this region. And just
The art
there's
scene
people
in
that go
general.
nuts about all these local bands and all that. And there's people that, will go to every show. And there's these huge followings and these things that, were right under my nose that I never saw so much until we started doing that. Yeah. Do you, I guess, commune with a lot of, like, smaller artists in the area, or you sort of stick to yourself?
Any real collaborations that I've done in the Niagara region have been directing videos for people and stuff like that.
That's also an important collaboration. There's
No, it's great. I just musically don't collaborate with too many people in the Niagara region. And to be honest with you, it's partly strategic for me because I consider myself a unique sound, and I want to maintain that because I think now it's more important to be different than to be popular or to be talented. As hard as that is to say, it's
I can
like,
agree
there's
with
a
that.
lot of talented people around here. Like Niagara's
Of course.
a wicked location. I can name 20 people off the top of my head right now that I like. I like their music. I like what they're doing, but if I pair up with them, I become
A little bit of them, and maybe
and
become
just,
a little bit of you at the same time.
So I try and keep all the music things separate, and it's not that I'm not into collaborating with people. It's just that around here, I find it harder to find people doing what I'm doing.
Is there a location in the world where there are people doing something more similar to you? Because you say you feel very unique.
Of course. I mean, there's places all over the world, but the hubs are definitely like New York, Nashville, LA, Miami.
Any dreams of going to any of those places and making that your home for a while?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've tried. I spent a lot of time in LA. I just got back yesterday. So I hang out there a lot. My sister lives out there, so it makes it easy for me to...
That's handy. Convenient.
Yeah, it's great. It's good, but we're so close, and I miss her all the time because she's out there and I'm here. But it's good because I get to go out there and politic and connect with new people and stuff. But it's all good wherever you really are, as long as you're doing it properly and capturing it on camera or something and getting out.
The internet sort of bridges a lot of the world together. You get to hear lots of musical inspirations from around the world, and you get to broadcast yourself from anywhere to anywhere. It's not like there's as many barriers as maybe there once was.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can see, Nashville still being a hot spot in New York City. I mean, it still is interesting going to the Nashville bar scene. I mean, we walked around, downtown Nashville on I don't know, it might have been a weekend night or something, but there's lots of people there trying to make it big in the music industry, and, they got a floor of a bar or something to themselves, and it's hit or miss.
Literally to themselves.
Literally.
Yeah. Nashville's an amazing place. You know what's really hot, too, is Texas.
Where in Texas? Austin.
Austin,
Yeah.
Austin,
okay.
Texas has a-
Austin in
The-
general for
the-
the arts, though.
The
man.
hipstery part of Texas.
Yes.
There's a serious music scene out there. My favorite, one of my big inspirations right now is Leon Bridges, and he's from Austin, Texas. So it's proof right there that there's action happening there too.
I wouldn't mind going to Texas, but it's a heck of a drive, so I think we'd have to fly.
Yeah, it's like 14 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why Nashville was
12.
okay.
Yeah.
Nashville was a decent drive. There's no
12
complaints.
hours,
Yeah.
Just the extra 2 is like, okay, it's a lot.
It makes a difference.
Only
when
2 more hours.
Yeah, roughly about that.
I could have swore it was a lot more than that. Eh. Well, that's
yeah,
interesting.
but that's driving nonstop. Once you add a few
Yeah,
stops,
yeah.
12 hours
It probably
becomes
adds up to like
13,
15,
and then
16
15, 16 for there. So,
now I want to drive to Texas. This is fantastic.
okay, let's go tomorrow.
So you travel quite frequently then if you were just recently in LA?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say frequently, but like 3-4 times a year.
That's more than most.
Okay, yeah.
Definitely more than most.
I suppose. Yeah.
What part of LA is it that you typically spend your
I
time
usually
in?
stay in Hollywood, like West Hollywood.
So, nice.
This
You're-
time around was probably the most fruitful experience that I had there because I just kind of balled out and went a little crazy. Like I rented a big mansion.
Really?
In the hills and like we did it. I did it proper on this run. I could stay with my sister, but for me it's like I don't know. I'm not materialistic, but it changes the dynamic of your trip when you have like a nice car rental and a nice place to stay.
Yeah.
Because LA is not what a lot of people think it is. Like, it's quite busy.
Yes.
And oversaturated with people and the traffic. Like, you think the QEW's traffic is bad.
Ever-
In Toronto, it's like times 3 or 4.
I've seen some of the traffic
I've
cameras they
heard.
have on the U.S. news channels, and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
Or even when there's a police chase or something, and they're just stuck in gridlock.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing to watch.
So my advice to anyone going there is just get a nice place. Enjoy your stay because you'll end up staying in the house more often than you think.
It's interesting advice. I mean, yeah, I don't know what I would do if I was in LA. A lot of people gravitate towards California, but I think I'd end up more in the northern part of California, like going for hikes and stuff.
That's what is the best part about California for sure
Is the
outside
outdoor.
of LA.
Really?
Yeah.
See, okay, that's good news anyways, because I mean, if I ever went there, that'd be what I'd be interested in. I know a lot of people are sort of into the cinema side of things, and that's what the Hollywood's good for. And
I think I'd have to take 2 trips to California because I would definitely want to check out the quote-unquote Hollywood scene. It would need to happen, but the hiking and the other aspects, that's definitely its own trip. But I don't know if renting a mansion would be in my future, but that's definitely a cool way of going about it.
You'd be surprised how affordable it can be if you have a good squad.
yeah, I guess if you do it with a bunch of people, it
Like
makes a
if
lot
you
more
have
sense.
6 people, and you go and get a place for $600, $700 US a night, you're only paying $100 a night each or whatever.
Which is the cost of a so-so motel, really.
Yeah, and then you're living like a king, up in the hills.
How long did you stay most recently?
I was there a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good
You
trip.
mentioned a good car too. What'd you rent for a car?
I rented a 1965
Oh, Jesus.
Classic.
Mustang Classic.
Okay, that's interesting too, because I know a lot of people go there and they'll rent the cheapest Ferrari 458 Italia or something, whatever they could, and it's torn apart. But I'm sure that was kept in good condition if it's still around.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. No power steering.
No, it'd be hard to drive.
I'm serious, man. Like it required a lot of strength to turn this wheel.
A lot of people are.
Anyone. I feel, I'm not being sexist, but I think some girls would have a hard time driving this.
Yeah, somebody with a smaller frame.
You have to crank this wheel. It was unreal.
A lot of people say if you're going to, there's some people that will commit full time to driving a classic car like that, and it's just you're in another world. It feels like you're back in time because it's like you turn the wheel and this thing barely responds, or it's just weird disconnected thing compared to how these fancy cars we have these days with electronic, power steering and all that kind of stuff.
It's true.
It's an amazing experience to drive an old car like that, because it's just like all the trinkets that we're used to are not there. It's just like cut and dry, black and white.
So they kept all the stock radio and all the stock components to it?
Yeah. If you go on my Instagram or something like that, you can see I put GoPros all over the car.
If you give us your information for your Instagram or other contact info, we'll put it on the screen, and I will check that out myself.
Yeah, you guys can check that out.
That sounds like a bit.
You looking it up right now?
I'm curious.
It's my IG is Wesley James K.
There we go. The even just around here, I've been tempted a couple times to like rent a nice car or something like that. And I know they do trips through Niagara on the Lake and a couple of other areas. I'm a little bit of a car enthusiast.
Yeah.
Mostly just because I started watching a lot of Top Gear when I was a little kid.
Cool, man. Top Gear's good stuff. I was saying I never really was a car guy, and I think
I cut off Vince Vaughn in Santa Monica Boulevard. My life is complete.
Yeah, I did. That's a true story. I cut off Vince Vaughn, and he like yelled at me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
he would never remember this because I was just like a little antworm.
Doesn't matter. That's a story for you.
I wonder how many.
Cool story.
Yeah.
He was like, we were right at Hollywood. We were like on Sunset Boulevard, somewhere in that zone, and like there's like a big studio there, like rehearsal studio, where like the stars go and rehearse their stuff and everything. So he was like just coming out of the lot, and he had parked. He had like pulled up to the street to make a turn, but I was like already turning onto the street, so I kind of cut through the front of the lane. You know what I mean? When someone's pulling up, but they come across, and I just sped up and made it happen. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's Vince Vaughn. That's Vince Vaughn. And my sister was in the car. She's like, that's not Vince Vaughn. I'm like, yeah, it is. She's like, okay, yeah, that was Vince Vaughn. Because he was like, what the? Like, he did one of these, like, you know.
Well, that's.
And I love Vince Vaughn, so it was really cool.
Well, that's awesome, really.
Yeah.
Not for him, but yeah.
Man, like, there's celebrities all over the place. That same day, I ran into Johnny Knoxville. I was like hiking through, they call it Running Canyon, and it's like just a super popular hiking spot. And, you know, on any given day, you could see a star walking around there.
Yeah, it was definitely the surreal thing working in Toronto. I've done very, very limited film work, but on one of the days we were there, and Ben Stiller was just 20 feet away.
Ben Stiller.
I'm like, that's amazing.
What a cool cat that guy is, man. Ben Stiller.
Didn't talk to him, but it was just cool to be near him.
Yeah,
it'd be
sure.
impolite in that industry to be starstruck, and
yes, it's really hard not to be, but at the end of the day, you have to avoid the starstruck side of things.
Who do you think you'd be most starstruck by?
The honest answer, not a movie star.
no.
Okay, who?
If I was walking down the street or working and I ran into Jimmy Buffett, I'd have issues.
Yeah?
Yeah. He'd be the big one where I wouldn't really be... I'd have to at least go say hi, even if it cost me the job.
Yeah.
I'd shoot myself if I didn't. Professional, but I'd still have to say hi.
Buffett.
Yeah. I'm a fanatic.
Are you?
Yeah.
It's good music.
It's good music. I'll argue that he's kind of a storyteller in the vein of Gordon Lightfoot, and his tropical adventures have made good songs. And
I just met Gordon Lightfoot.
Really?
Jesus.
How's he doing?
I just met him. It was an unbelievable experience.
Where'd you meet him?
At the Performing Arts Center.
Okay, so when he was here.
Oh.
When he was here. And you want to know a fun fact about Gordon Lightfoot? He is Drake's neighbor. Like, direct, like, side-by-side neighbor.
Huh.
Very different styles of music.
You know? And he's like, yeah, my neighbor's Drake. And I'm like, whatever, you know? And then I'm talking with the sound guy, and he's like, no, yeah, they live next door to each other. You know what I mean? They live up in Toronto in this place called Bridle Path. And
Okay.
It's like the spot. But yeah, Gordon Lightfoot, man, that was an unbelievable experience to meet him, because he's an icon. That guy.
Yes.
Like, that's Canadian icon.
Yes.
Right there.
I mean, even worldwide, too. Canadian icon, but he is known worldwide, at least.
Were you there to go to the concert specifically?
I was there. Why was I there? I was working for him. I was doing.
Oh.
I was doing. I think I was doing. Video. Yeah, it was video. But I'm curious who you would be starstruck by.
It's tricky to say necessarily. I think, because I'm thinking of musicians, it'd probably be like a guitarist or somebody like maybe like Zakk Wylde or if it's a vocalist, maybe Ozzy Osbourne or something along the lines of that for some reason. Or I don't know if it'd be starstruck by like modern day Robert Plant, but it'd be cool. Or like Jimmy Page. Could go for that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the classic rock kind of stuff. I don't
Yeah.
feel like I'd be a very easily starstruck person.
Yeah.
Or even like scientists, I don't know. Or some science-related person like Elon Musk, seeing him on the street, that'd be something different for me.
Elon Musk, he's a really cool dude.
Seems to be.
It's funny we're doing this podcast because I was just watching a podcast.
Statistically, most
Elon
people.
Musk.
Oh yeah.
Whose podcast?
Joe Rogan.
Perfect.
And Elon Musk.
We've both seen that podcast.
And I just soaked up that whole thing, however long.
Are you
4 hours.
He's fascinating to listen to.
Well, he's building tunnels underneath of Los Angeles.
Yeah, he is. The Boring Company.
And still the CEO of Tesla. Did you know that he didn't actually invent the Tesla?
No, that was a project that used it's the British car, the Lotus or something like that, and then they stuck a bunch of batteries in it. It was a horrible failure in many regards, but it was an interesting sports car idea, and it got converted.
Most people think he was the inventor. But he was just so entrepreneurial in his field of work that they were like, we need this guy to run our company. So he became the CEO. As far as I know, I believe.
I don't really know much of the details about that. I do know that Tesla really wasn't going anywhere until they came out with this whole Model S concept for like the more general consumer, albeit a fairly wealthy general consumer. But
they haven't cracked the low end of the market yet.
No. They say they're going to come out with a pickup truck for like $50,000 US, and I don't believe it.
There's Teslas all over California, man.
Yeah,
I'm talking everywhere.
It's a symbol at this point. It's like it's the new Prius. Whereas Prius is a fairly undesirable car. Lots of celebrities would drive it because it's just you can't argue with it. It's just a regular car, and it's
cool though.
Yeah,
you have to give it that. It is cool. I saw one. I pulled up to this guy at a stoplight, and I had been walking right by him or something, and the dash. Sorry, like where your stick shift would be. All of this panel rode up onto the console, front dash, like in one wave, and it was all one massive LED screen.
Yeah.
So the LED screen came all the way back to your elbow, and wraps up.
Oh yeah, they're sexy and futuristic.
Very good material design, attention to detail. Maybe something to do with them being like generally designed and assembled in America has something to do with it. It's not just this cheap. It's a labor of love kind of thing. It's not been exported yet, which is nice. Yeah. Just like how a lot of.
But it's also problematic because as they're producing it in America, there is a reasonably high demand for them, so the wait time for your cars is quite high.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
There is something to be said about mass production overseas, but we don't want to do that. There is.
Yeah.
You can't keep up with demand.
Everybody else does it.
Yeah, but it's cool as long as I don't know if it's sustainable. They would definitely hit a cheaper price point if they did do it overseas, but there is some positive merit to not doing it overseas. It's a difficult balance.
That camera there just flashed. I'm not sure if it turned off or what.
Oh, you're still recording. It's got a magic lantern on it. Just keeps going for days.
On the topic of cameras, I guess, are you much of an equipment nerd? Like, do you really focus on your specs?
You know what? I am a little bit.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about what you typically use? What kind of cameras, audio equipment, what goes into it?
I shoot and direct all my own music videos, so I kind of invested in
your own gear,
in my own gear and everything.
Perfect.
So what I own personally is a Lumix GH5.
Perfect. That's a fantastic videography camera.
A Ronin M and a Ronin S.
Nice.
And I got a bunch of badass lenses and a bunch of cool shit like that.
Definitely videography oriented with the with the Panasonic cameras. They're really good as far as their like log profiles and all their editability.
And the color for me. Sorry.
Color's good too.
I was just going to say the Ronins are great. We went a little bit more old school, so we have a Steadicam rig, which is heavy.
Big and bulky.
Yeah,
big,
Steadicam.
but I love it.
Yeah.
Hurts my back after a few hours, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love the effect.
Yeah,
I love the way it looks.
Rad.
Yeah.
Rad. I'm all with the slider, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm all with the
We're
slider.
filming a short film at the end of the summer, so we're just gearing up with the extra equipment that we didn't have. We haven't had a need for a slider.
No,
There's not a...
they don't work at weddings. 'Cause
No.
they're too
So now that we have it, we're going to utilize it in commercial production and then also
Nice.
the short film stuff. So
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Right on, dude. That's super cool.
yeah.
Were you big into like cameras and things like that before you got into this
No.
videography side?
No, I just the way that media has evolutionized. It was kind of like I didn't have a choice, you know. What I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Decide you had
more
to do it
more
for yourself.
often, I'm challenged to be a marketing genius than a musician in 2019. You know what I mean? Like I have to be. Anything I go and do that's even remotely interesting, I need to be like, okay, well, I need to capture this.
Hey, with
People
20,000 plus
yeah.
Instagram followers, you're doing a good job at it.
I think. Thank you, man. Thank you. Brother. Yeah, I'm doing okay. Like, you know, one step at a time.
Yeah. And you're having, I assume you're having a good time while doing it. So that's the
I'm
important
having a
part.
good time while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I got my fruits and veggies. Dinner on the table.
You had mentioned it before. Are you an avid podcast listener, or do you just stick with Joe Rogan? Do you have others that you listen to?
I
or-
mainly listen to Joe Rogan.
Okay. There's enough of him to go around forever, so you could listen to him religiously, and that's almost a full-time job.
He cultivates interesting personalities. He's very good at asking the right questions to get a person talking. I think that's the skill that he has. Because honestly, if you look at all the podcasts before about episode 500, I get the feeling that a lot of times he wasn't as good at that back then. And he's not necessarily the most intellectual person. Like, he doesn't claim to know a bunch of things. But these days, it seems like he really hits it as far as reading up on, you know, into his guests and asking the right kind of questions. And anything from rappers to scientists to, you know.
Well, I mean, you're spot on. Like, imagine having the time and money to sit down like this every day.
The amount of money that
And
he makes
absorb
per
info.
podcast is insane.
Yeah.
When you start looking at the potential ad revenue, the views and whatnot, it's no wonder why that's such a huge part of his life now. And then I wonder, because it hasn't happened yet, but he was talking about getting Kanye on or something like that, or Alex Jones, or some of the big ones.
He just had Wiz Khalifa, but I'm waiting for Kanye.
But you think
Kanye would be cool.
there's obviously the business side of things. He'll do good numbers regardless, but then he gets somebody like, you know, Kanye, or when he had Roseanne Barr on after the whole Roseanne incident, Elon Musk. And then Elon Musk after the fact, when everybody was like, oh, Elon Musk smoked pot on his podcast. And
He
then,
hit it once.
yeah, and he got in so much trouble.
He got in so much trouble.
So good.
He was smoking weed. Or no, he hit it and had a text within 10
Yeah.
seconds from someone being like,
What are you doing?
This is not...
No, it's crazy when you're like that, but it's amazing that he, as I said, there's absolutely no reason for him to stop, because he's just doing amazing numbers and changing the interview landscape. I
That
think.
interview fascinated me, dude. Just how simplistic his responses were for such intricate questions. You know,
Yes.
Joe Rogan says, flying cars. And he goes, too loud. And like, that was his response, is too loud.
Yeah.
And then when you think about it, it's like, oh, yeah, you're right, it won't work. It's too loud. You have a flying car, your neighbor's trying to sleep. Imagine a drone. They talk about this. They say, imagine a drone. You start up a drone. They're this big. They hold a camera.
Make a
whatever.
ton of noise.
They're loud.
Sure.
Loud. Now multiply that size of that drone
Yes.
times 10 or 20,000 or whatever it may be.
Actually, all the videos I've ever seen of the, like the human-sized drones, right? It's never sound footage from the day. It's always over music.
Yes.
So
And
almost like
that's-
that's
That's propellers. The other way to do it would be like turbines or something, which, think of a jet airplane going.
How do you guys feel about this Amazon drone delivery?
Inevitable. I think Amazon, the smartest thing that they've done is they decided that they were going to do their own shipping. Like they have their own planes. That's the best thing they could do, because then they're not reliant on Purelate or FedEx, anything else like that. So they can control their scheduling. They can control their contracts with the airports and all like that. The drones, yes, that's a natural part of it, but I don't think it's as crucial right now.
It's a bit of a gimmick, but
as having their own.
It gets people like us talking, and it's been
did just talk about it.
It's been a talking point for quite some time. It's funny with the way things are going with the drones. It's almost easier to use them commercially than it is to just be some guy that wants to fly it in his backyard, because they're making all these rules and regulations for just typical users. But if you fill out the huge, basically pilot's license, agreement, and you say you're going to use it for commercial use, yeah, you could do a lot with them.
Yeah.
It's a strange changing landscape.
Yeah. It's been an interesting ride watching drones develop as what was a huge and kind of cool novelty to something that everybody had and you could use, and there wasn't that much regulation. And then now it just seems gargantuan to do anything. We were looking at filming permits for certain areas in Niagara, and if we get a proper permit, some of the things that they specifically say, even though we're filming, no drones, even if you are licensed and insured to do it. So even some places are hesitant to even let you fly, which is problematic. But we have one, and we fly them accordingly, and we're safe and whatnot. But
my prediction for the early future of drones is that they're going to have to be smart. I'm comparing it to a TV. There's regular TV to a smart TV. There's drones, and now we're going to have smart drones, because they need to be able to encompass geography and
we're getting close to that.
To the door and everything when they land. So what I think is going to happen is I think people are going to figure out how to hack these things while they're in the air and have packages redirected and steal things and
Sounds like a lot of fun and chaos.
I do. I think they're gonna have some crazy issues with it at the beginning. They're they should be almost more focused on the internal security of the internal computer of the drone.
Yeah, I don't really know how much of a threat that is, to be honest.
I'm not sure either.
I'm sure Amazon has thought about that. They wouldn't want their packages just being redirected.
They certainly have. I think
that's why they're still really in the testing phases of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it'd be a lot harder to stop somebody from, say, shooting one out of the air, I think, which is something that happens in America occasionally. It's kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
That's true. You can worry a ton about the hacking side of things, but if somebody
can throw a rock hard enough...
Yeah, and just take it down. That's the point too. That's the short way.
This is the evolution of people stealing packages off your doorstep.
Yeah.
It's stealing it from the drone that's delivering it.
Just better hope that whatever's in the package isn't fragile. Otherwise, this drone that you shoot out of the air to steal the package is now pointless anyway.
It's true.
That's funny.
My concern is it's almost like the Elon Musk topic. I'm worried about how loud these things are going to be.
Yeah, I mean, we take for granted perhaps how loud airplanes already are in our skies and helicopters. I mean, you go to Toronto, you can't escape it. You're listening to planes all day long.
Yeah.
And I mean, other big cities in the U.S. are much worse, I'm sure.
Now, thankfully, the drones, at least from what I understand, their capability to deliver is reliant on, obviously, the weight of what they're delivering. So anything heavy, they're still not going to be able to deliver. So I don't think couriers are ever going to be totally out of a job. And I mean, the evolution of drones, the audible difference between a DJI Phantom 2 and a Mavic is unbelievable. The Mavic is so much quieter, so I don't exactly know at what point they'll be like, well, we can't make it any quieter, but they definitely had an improvement between the Phantom 2 and the Mavic. So I don't know.
That's why Elon Musk is building tunnels. Because you can't go up, you have to build down.
That's been a popular theory for a long time.
I like the one with the vacuum tubes where you sit in a pod and it just zips you along. That's a fun little futuristic idea for transportation.
Well, think about it, man. Like, you could get across America in 20 minutes or 25 minutes, or maybe not that fast.
If you're traveling at hundreds of kilometers per hour in one of these tubes, I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah, they're going to work it out somehow so that you can get, anywhere in the world. Like,
going under the ocean would be the heck of a process. That'd be a very interesting thing. You'd have to have many countries participate in order to get that in order.
I know, right?
I wonder what laws they would have to, because there's maritime law, but you're not in the water. You're under the water, potentially, or at least, I don't know how that would work. You don't want to be stopped in your pod by Cuban pirates because you...
Stopped in your pod.
Well...
Makes it sound like a very archaic mode of transportation, like a boat.
I forget who said it, but the whole idea of those pods is wonderful. But what happens if there's an earthquake? Like, what happens if they jostle? How far?
Break the tube.
Yep, but that's a horrible idea when you're going hundreds of kilometers.
No, I
an
mean
hour.
like the tube might break. That's the vacuum tube. I don't know. Who knows?
It's beyond my
Whoever invents
comprehension.
this transportation has to think about these things.
It's gonna be cool.
What is there an item in your life that you look at it and you say, this is, when I was a kid, what I thought the future would be like this thing? Because I think a lot of people might say smartphones, right?
Yeah, I mean, a smartphone's definitely in the top 5.
Couldn't imagine how many things it could do and how fast it is at all of them.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would say smartphone.
Yeah. Just because it does it all. I mean, even stuff like listening to music is so much easier than when we were young. I mean, I had CDs growing up myself, but...
As stereotypical as it is, I would have to say smartphone too. Yeah. Like, you can do so much from a single phone, even a single phone from a few years ago.
Yeah. And this came about as of like the past, 15 years sort of trend where it's gotten to this point. Think about, what's the next big thing like that? What's the thing that you could only imagine as the most futuristic thing possible now?
I don't think we're far off from the stereotypical image that we all had in our head as kids of like you open your hand, or the sunglasses where you can see the digitals through the lens, or you have the phone that glows and like a hologram,
like an augmented reality kind of thing.
I don't think we're far off of that. I mean, Samsung's already doing the folding phone and everything.
It's pretty cool. Yeah,
pending their...
Microsoft has a lot of augmented reality type technology, which is neat. You throw on a pair of glasses, all of a sudden you can look around the room and your glasses will tell you what things are, or project some kind of image.
That's just it. Their tech to map the room and say, hey, if you're watching YouTube, put YouTube on that wall. And then that's now as big as you want it to be, perspective-wise.
Right.
That's cool. I think it was Futurama where they put the iPhone actually in the customer's head. And I do worry that that's where we're going. I, at this point, would have no interest in putting an electronic device in my skull. I'll keep it on the outside.
Unfortunately, I agree with you. I think that is probably where we're going to end up. I just saw Flick, a movie. I can't remember the title, unfortunately, but it was all based on that, where this guy takes a computer chip, puts it in his head, and
that's never a good idea in any movie.
This is crazy when you think about it. Being able to download your personal conscience onto a drive of some kind and have it transferred to another body.
Yeah. It's basically immortality at that point.
And then you're talking about, obviously, artificial intelligence.
I would choose a taller body.
Yeah.
Personally. But, no, that is true. And I don't know if we'll see that type of craziness in our lifetime, but it's definitely possible.
AI is scary stuff, man. I heard a story about some underground bunker in the desert in Nevada.
You're freaking me out.
Government level stuff.
Nice.
Like high tech, gnarly stuff that is all secretive.
Let's call it Area 51,
And
maybe.
they had this artificial intelligence item, whatever you want to call it, that became so intelligent, learning all the languages in the world, learning how to decrypt mathematics and things in seconds, and it became so intelligent that it no longer needed the human who was taking control of it, and it learned how to convert its brain into a formula or some kind of technical existence and travel. It tried to escape the environment it was in and travel its brain through the U-ground cable that it was plugged into the wall from.
I haven't heard of that. But what I have heard of...
This could be... That could be fabricated.
I don't know.
Not factual.
It doesn't sound impossible.
Here's another one along the vein of that, and I don't know how true it is either. But there apparently was a very similar situation where they had an artificial intelligence that were just getting to learn all these things very quickly, and it was communicating with another artificial intelligence. And very quickly in the process of getting these computers to learn things, the computers started talking to each other in a language that they could no longer discern as in like English or anything that humans could interpret. They just started making things up and started sending information back and forth to each other.
That's where it gets freaky.
Right? The robots started talking to each other.
It's like, what is this thing talking about?
That
happens too with French people. And
with French people?
It does. It happens with French people. If they don't like you, they'll start...
Oh, okay.
Like,
that's not French people. That's
not just French people. It's
every other culture.
My experience in the last week was it just happened to be
French Canadians are good at doing that one. Yeah, that's true.
I have good friends who are French, so I'm not
do I.
bashing French. But
Half of my family is French.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I see that. Especially the more you travel into Quebec, they don't like us. Us
They don't want
Ontarians.
to be part of Canada, as far as I know. Anyway.
Some of them voted that way, I guess.
They put in some kind of vote of legislation or whatever
to separate.
To become.
They've been trying to do that for a long time.
Long thing. It might be more of like a political statement than something they actually desire. I really don't know at this point. I think you'd have to live there to really have your.
Does that serve? You know what I mean?
You have to have your finger on the pulse of it. I think if you.
Next thing you know, they'll be building the wall.
If they
at least to be more affordable.
Having your own citizens build a wall.
No, I'm saying it'd be more affordable to build a wall around Quebec than it would be to build a wall.
Depends how north you
across
go.
the Mexican border.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true. It depends how far north you go. If you just
we're treading gray area now. We're going into the political Trump direction.
Yeah. Well, that's all fun. We don't care what we talk about on here. We can talk about anything.
That's bad.
We have talked about anything. We've covered a wide gamut over the past.
It's too bad we didn't start this podcast before Trump took office, because I'm sure we'd have more to say about it back then. At this point, it's just a fact of the matter, and
it was weird.
More interested in Canadian politics in some regard.
Yeah, I remember that night. Had a friend over. We watched a James Bond movie. We were actively trying to avoid the election, and then Twitter just kept going. He was like, "You won this, you won that." And I looked at him. I'm like, "This is history. Yes. Like, we should watch this." And then we did. Yes. And then before I went to bed that night, I posted a picture of a brick wall on all my friends' Facebook feed. So I just kept building walls on their feed.
The music industry is too sensitive for me to even put my political views out.
Even shred that area. I don't know. Is it really? I don't know. Do people really find somebody that isn't willing to talk about politics that much better than someone who is willing to be at least a little abrasive and, rub them the wrong way by saying something they might not agree with?
I suppose but it all depends on whether that person has an educated rebuttal. I don't condone.
That's fair.
I don't follow things closely enough to have an accurate description of what's real and what's not.
A lot of people believe things politically, not necessarily because they have facts to back them up, but it's because it feels right. And I think that's every human that's guilty of that to at least some point. everybody wants to, maybe vote or not vote, and they have opinions as to why they're right, but I don't know. You'd have to really be like a political scientist.
I'm not a real political person at all. I pay attention here and there, and I try to pay attention to the important stuff, but there's a reason why you can be a political analyst is a full-time job. To know everything, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
So I know you got to fly. So
I'm good for another 10 minutes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Do you plan to ever leave Canada and maybe move to the United States and become a citizen or do something along the lines of that?
Once he has enough money to buy the mansion he was living in.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think it's highly probable that I will always remain a Canadian citizen.
Good, you wear the citizenship well.
Thank you, buddy. I travel to do business a lot in the States, but and I speak for myself, but I think the last two or three runs ago when I went to LA, I was there 6 months or something. I was there for a more elongated period of time. And I was like crawling back over the Canadian border, like, get me home, man. I just want to be home.
What is it? Is it just the feeling of home that's the most important, or is there something else that pushes you away?
Definitely. Like, some people are built to, go off to school and disappear to a different country for 4 years, and then they end up in, like, I love my mom. I love my dad.
But you love your sister. Who's in LA?
Of course, I love my sister. And, family and family is the most important thing to me, and I think it should be for everyone. But, being away from family isn't a life I want to live. No
fair.
job. Like, I'd rather lay brick and not do, this music thing out in New York or California. As long as I'm with the people that I love, right? Like, but also I might be jaded because a lot of shit happened to me, on my California trips and my musical endeavors.
Like what?
These are the interesting stories.
Well, like,
whatever you feel comfortable saying.
Without mentioning any names, I had a...
That's a good thing.
Yeah. I had a record deal kind of on the table, or led to believe that there was one.
Okay.
So I went out there, like, put everything behind me. I'm doing this. I'm gonna go see what these people have to offer me, and I was put through the ringer, man. I had to dance through hoops, and it was supposed to be about my music and what I was doing, and it turned into, we want you to produce music for these people, and those people were these, like, they were white rappers, and they were like 14 or 15 years old.
Strange, yeah.
And I thought they sucked, but I did it anyway because I thought, okay, well,
do this, and then
I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine,
and then you get yours, yeah.
And it just was like, one of those things where just more things kept coming and coming and coming, and then next thing I knew, it was like, it wasn't even about me anymore. It was about everyone else except for me, including the people who were running the whole thing. And
I think that whole thing has been pretty commonplace since perhaps the 50s in the United States, where, like, you would get backing artists and all sorts of people to make a track, but then you get, like, these new, possibly, might be a sensation someday, specific people, and then a lot of times they're crap. And you're making music for something you don't believe in anymore, and you're never going to get what you want out of it.
Sure. My thing is now it's like, I just think if people are going to be making music, like, try and spread some kind of positive message inside of it. Like, there's enough gunk out there that's like, fuck bitches, get money.
Yeah, there's lots of that.
There's so
it sells
there's
well.
enough. There's enough.
It does
like,
sell
we get
well.
it. You know what I mean? So now it's just like, I'm trying to have some kind of purpose that works symmetrically with music, and you use them both to bounce off each other, and then you're actually have a purpose in life, right? And I think that's why I'm such a happy person. It's because I have like a purpose in my life. It's not music. It's about what I can do with it. Like I had a guy tell me, I've had more than one person tell me that I've saved their life.
That's heavy.
Because of my music. And that is the shit that drives me now. It's like, dude, like, what? Like, what are you saying to me? Like, you were like gonna hang yourself and then you put my shit on YouTube and like you didn't hang yourself? Like, because I know that's a heavy topic, but
I don't know.
If that's true,
I'm sure there might be
like,
research on that phenomenon, because there are lots of artists that perhaps get that kind of comments. I know a lot of like mainstream ones. I mean, Eminem's talked a bit about that kind of thing, but like people seem to just gravitate toward something, latch on, and I guess if there is a positive message to it or something that at least gives them hope, it puts them on the right track.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people need to be a little pickup every now and then, especially those that are really in a dark place.
I think so too, man.
And I think once you at least talk to one person who says, yes, I was going to commit suicide, then I put on your music, there's part of you who's like, well,
now I owe it to
always going to be making music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone has their thing that like turns their mood around, you know what I mean? Some people smoke weed. I mean, most people smoke weed, it seems, these days. I don't smoke, but
pretty common in our
it
country.
helps a lot of people with their anxiety and stuff.
Yeah.
And now people are being more open about anxiety and depression and everything.
The mental health thing has taken a big turn, especially in this region. Like I mean, this last year was pretty crazy for a lot of the stuff that came up with the news and people, killing themselves by jumping off bridges and
I know, it's
and crazy
terrible.
things.
It's
Yeah.
But people are talking now more than they ever have. I can't go anywhere without people talking about mental health issues.
Yeah.
So it's there's something that has to be changing at this point.
Yeah.
It's weird, the more humans we have on this planet and the more humans we have in this area, there's more and more lonely people out there.
Yeah.
I think loneliness might be one of the biggest concerns so far as mental health
man.
goes.
I think so too. Self-esteem. That's another big one because
That's a hard one for anybody. I worry when I have children, but for me, it took a long time to find any of it. High school, well, not bad, didn't really promote a high self-esteem, and then it wasn't until college where I realized I'm odd.
Yeah.
I can embrace it. I'm in a film course. I'm in a course with a bunch of other odd people.
Hell yeah.
And now I'm strange.
Yeah, but strange is good, and you're confident and
for the most part.
happy in your own skin. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think high school is a huge deal for kids because, like, that's when it's like, you're really like, it's such a like sensitive time because you're setting yourself up for the rest of your life.
At least you're told that.
You're told that,
many
yeah.
regards.
But you're also like, you don't realize how sensitive the time is when you're that age because your brain's still developing. You're still trying to figure out who you are as a person. The people that surround. I think that it's most important to surround yourself with people that can help give you self-esteem. Like if you're hanging around with the wrong dudes, and they don't give you no love, like those aren't your friends, And self-esteem comes from having a support system, in my opinion. I was raised with a wonderful family, so it was like I was confident from the get. The world was my oyster. But I was also the guy who would go out and, if someone was being bullied, I would like make friends with the kid who was getting his ass kicked, and I would like tell the bully to bugger off or fight him if I had to or whatever it might have been. But to give that guy some self-esteem.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
Not everyone has that person.
It's difficult for a lot of people to realize that doing things that you call like a mutualistic behavior, like you're helping somebody out, has such bigger benefits to it than being that bully and you get a little kick of adrenaline or whatever you want out of it, or a little bit of attention, but you have so much more by doing the good thing instead of the bad thing.
Yeah,
it's difficult to convince a lot of people of that, especially if they themselves have had the really rough upbringing where they don't have any support in their lives, which is a story that's been told a million times of the
like when you were in high school,
neglected child.
Did you have self-esteem, like, or were you like in the box, like, you know what I mean?
I don't think I had much self-esteem. I wasn't really concerned so much about myself. I was a little bit different. Everybody always talks about high school like it's this big experience or it was terrible or whatever. For me, I kind of just cruised right through it.
Yeah.
It wasn't particularly memorable. I didn't participate much. It was okay.
Same with me. I don't look back. Some people, and I know I went to high school with people, they're like, oh, high school was awesome. Like, it was okay. I'm not unhappy with the decisions I made in high school.
Yeah.
I don't look fondly in my decisions made in high school. And I know that it was fairly unmemorable for myself. Although, for me to say it was unmemorable, I found out a few years ago that as memorable as I thought I was, turns out I wasn't, because I have had so many situations where I've seen people when I go back to my hometown where I know who they are, and they're talking to me, like, they'll be like, "Oh, it was like, oh, come on, my name, whatever," or they don't recognize me. Is nice. Yeah, you almost get a second chance with some women when they don't remember you from high school. Never worked, but the second chance was nice.
Right on, dude.
I don't know. High
It's
school.
not even that high school itself is the most sensitive part. It's just, I think the way that your parents treat you in those early phases of life are massively important. Because when you go back into depression and anxiety, and you look at the track record of these people that are committing suicide, alcoholic parents.
Yes, absolutely.
Dad left, mom left, abuse, verbal or physical. And these things start as a little snowball, and then
they roll down the hill.
You go through high school and college, and then it rolls down the hill, and they turn into these massive avalanches of emotions that people cannot physically handle or emotionally.
There are a lot of psychology principles that relate to how someone like ages emotionally, you could say it, and a lot of people are stuck perhaps in an age that's a lot younger than they actually are, and they haven't learned the lessons perhaps it takes to be more mature and more rounded as a person. And it's not their fault or anything like that, but it's definitely correlated to all these things that you've mentioned, like not having a parent growing up or something like that, or just being neglected or abused.
Yeah,
it's different. I don't know if it's more of an issue these days than it was perhaps in the past, because I'm sure life 100 years ago would have been very rough too.
Yes, but for different reasons.
Yeah,
I mean, 100 years ago now, life's there's a war, right?
Yeah,
like 1919, right around the end,
and we'd be there. Yeah. We'd be fighting. So tough for different reasons.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about self-esteem. We were just worried about not being killed tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which I guess we can still kind of be worried about, but on a different scale.
Not on the same realistic scale.
It's tough too when you get young people having kids, like in their early 20s or whatever. It was more common back then.
Yeah, but maybe there's more support where raising a family young perhaps was not the worst thing in the world.
It wasn't necessarily more family support. It was just the thing to do. You get a job as a coal miner really young. You make money. You have a wife. You have a kid. Or if you're a farmer, you have kids so they can milk the cows in the morning.
Yeah.
For you.
Having a kid these days, I guess, has a lot of repercussions attached to it if you're under perhaps 20 years old or so.
Yeah, for sure, man. Especially like if you're dealing with anxiety and depression, and then you go and have a kid.
Now you got to care for somebody else.
You're kind of setting your kid up for failure in some ways.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't dealt with your own personal issues, they will manifest into the way that you parent your child. And I'm not a father, so I can't really comment too much on that.
Well,
but I do think that it's important that people deal with themselves and their emotional issues and help get their mind right before they go and raise a kid, right?
An important thing to understanding people is the idea of projection, where if somebody's showing a certain type of behavior, it might be because they feel a certain way themselves and they need to express it. So if someone does have anxiety about something, they're going to pass those anxieties on to their children.
Yeah, for sure.
In a very slow but sure kind of way.
Yeah.
I mean, children definitely a little bit more long lasting, but they always say, after a breakup or whatever, you have to take some time. You can't love somebody else until you can truly love yourself, and if you should.
I believe that.
In a real good scenario, having a child after you figured out kind of exactly who you are and how you kind of fit into this world is nice. Unfortunately, condoms sometimes break, and you don't get to make those decisions. But
wrap your tools, people.
That's a good, especially at a really young age.
Here's an interesting fact.
Okay.
So actually, no. Here's no. I want your opinions.
Okay. Give her opinion.
I know that this is like an uproar right now with the whole abortion thing.
Yeah, it's a big deal in the States at the
In the
moment.
States.
So, how do you feel about that?
The idea of abortion.
You're asking us?
It's okay. This is definitely going to go into the realm of politically correct, so I don't know if you want to push us into this direction, but I'll state my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. So, interesting thing. I come from a biology background. I mean, I went to school for biology, and I study a lot of psychology and philosophy.
This is going to be interesting to hear.
I'll make it nice and concise. I do think that aborting a fetus or something very early could be in some ways equated to murder, which is not what a lot of people say. But I'm okay with it. I think that a mother should have the choice to do it.
Yeah.
It's this weird thing where a lot of people want to say, oh, well, when does life begin? And it's not really killing something because you're doing it so early, so it should be okay. I'm saying I don't really mind so much that it is killing something. I can at least come to terms with that, but I also believe that a woman should have the choice to do it because there's so many situations in which it might be necessary.
Right.
So it's an argument about freedom, but also come to terms like you are killing a life form of some kind, even if it hasn't thought its first thought or took its first step or anything like that. It's still pretty close to murder.
Are you in sync with that? You feel the same way?
It is important to have the choice. The woman is supposed to have the choice. It's her body. I think she should definitely understand what she's doing. It's not, just a simple procedure. It's a life-changing procedure to a life form that hasn't taken its first thoughts, like you said. So they should be able to do what they want. It shouldn't really be government regulated. It's a medical procedure. And, I mean, you just go back and quote George Carlin.
Thank you. Why is it that most of the people who are against abortion are people you wouldn't want to fuck in the first place, huh? Boy, these conservatives are really something, aren't they? They're all in favor of the unborn. They will do anything for the unborn. But once you're born, you're on your own. But let's get back to this abortion shit. Now, is a fetus a human being? This seems to be the central question. Well, if a fetus is a human being, how come the census doesn't count them? If a fetus is a human being, how come when there's a miscarriage, they don't have a funeral? If a fetus is a human being, how come people say we have 2 children and 1 on the way, instead of saying we have 3 children? People say life begins at conception. I say life began about 1 billion years ago, and it's a continuous process. Continuous, just keeps rolling along. Rolling along. I say, you know something? Listen, you can go back further than that. What about the carbon atoms? Huh? Human life could not exist without carbon. So is it just possible that maybe we shouldn't be burning all this coal? Just looking for a little consistency here in these anti-abortion arguments. See, the really hardcore people will tell you life begins at fertilization. Fertilization when the sperm fertilizes the egg, which is usually a few moments after the man says, gee, honey, I was going to pull out, but the phone rang and it startled me. Fertilization. But even after the egg is fertilized, it's still 6 or 7 days before it reaches the uterus and pregnancy begins. And not every egg makes it that far. 80% of a woman's fertilized eggs are rinsed and flushed out of her body once a month during those delightful few days she has. They wind up on sanitary napkins, and yet they are fertilized eggs. So basically what these anti-abortion people are telling us is that any woman who's had more than one period is a serial killer.
If everybody's talking about the fetus being alive, they don't count them in censuses.
Yeah.
They don't, like when you say, oh, we have 2 kids and 1 on the way. No, you should say 3 kids, but nobody ever says it like that. So there's certain ways where even the way we talk, you don't count fetuses as a.
Maybe we're right or wrong to do that. I couldn't say myself.
You also don't get child support as soon as you're pregnant, but you do once they're born.
My thing with that whole thing is a woman can have 1 baby in a year because the cycle takes 9 months.
About that.
But a man could have 365
or more.
If you're really, really
or
productive.
more.
It'd be one hell of an
Definitely
achievement.
more. That's absolutely possible.
Sure.
So why are they only trying to regulate women?
Well, yes, there is an accountability factor to men.
It's difficult to hold men accountable, though, isn't it? Right? Unless you say that you're mandated to get snipped or something, what are you going to do?
I'm just saying that you'll have a better, like, it's either they're trying to minimize the population or that they're trying to scare people from reproducing, or that they're, you know what I mean? That there's obviously motives.
What's trying to minimize the population?
Then there's the religion aspect where people think it's morally wrong, right?
Sure. Because God said so.
And the list goes on. But I'm just saying that if you want to make something illegal, figure out
an alternative, perhaps.
Yeah, like I said, it numerically, women can hold 1 baby and men can have thousands. So you go after the source that's higher.
I know, but what?
Okay, so yeah, let's pretend to be politicians for a second.
Male birth control.
That's the thing that's becoming more of a popular topic. I think there's a pill you can take now that does something along the lines of that.
Much like female birth control, I think all the male versions aren't 100%. So you can still have 2 people on birth control that can still get pregnant.
Unlikely, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're having sex 365,
pull out people.
That's another way. There's still there's still a 1 in 10,000 chance that you're going to have a kid if you pull out, wear a condom, and she's on birth control.
Fair.
But those are the fringe cases. Let's just say you're an ill-informed teenager and you do something.
There's a lot
stupid.
out there.
Yeah, you do something stupid, and now you have a girl that's pregnant.
Yeah.
What about that situation, right?
Right.
There's lots of situations in which pregnancies can come and be unwanted, and I don't know. It is just a pure expression of freedom, at least so far as I believe, that people should be able to choose what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to say. It's a tough thing to talk about, but it's good.
It's a sensitive thing. Like, people don't want to talk about this stuff, but
it should be.
People got to talk about it. That's how it gets figured out.
I don't know. It should be the choice of the woman, but the man should be accountable in some situation.
Legally, they are. I mean, the kid's brought to term, of course, there's lots of repercussions for men if they're not going to be together as partners, and the men now have to pay a lot of money in child support and things like that. So,
how about this? It's not a perfect plan. I actually, before I say this, are abortions covered under OHIP in Ontario?
I believe they are, yes.
Okay, let's abolish that. Okay?
Well,
hold on.
up.
I just realized saying that sounds horrible.
Now all the poor people are going to have kids that they can't support, and the rich people just live
I guess that's true.
Life.
Maybe this was a flawed plan. You abolish the OHIP covered abortions and make the men, because there was going to be child support if the baby was taken to term, so make the man pay for the abortion by law. Garnish his wages if the woman says so. But you have to prove that they had sex, which is problematic. I don't know. Let me take that back.
Real scientific.
Pardon?
We're getting real scientific.
Yeah. Let's. I'm gonna take that back.
You're doing fetal paternity tests at this point. I don't really know if that's a thing. I'm not terrible.
I've actually got limited time left, but
perfect. We can wrap up on this really, really political topic.
We can finish with some music stuff or something.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit with some more music.
You want something of yours featured, perhaps?
Featured, yeah, sure. I'd love a feature.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna sign off, and whatever that is
Well,
gonna play.
he was saying we could talk more about music before we sign off.
Oh, okay.
That's what he was.
I'm totally missed that.
Do you perform around here? Like, can we check you out somewhere?
I don't perform around here very often, just because.
Okay, what are we saying around here? Like, can we go to
Nah,
Toronto and see you?
You can see me in Toronto. I have a couple shows coming up in Toronto. I'm doing a music festival in Hamilton.
Hamilton sounds better than Toronto.
Yeah.
A little bit closer of a drive.
And then I actually am doing a St. Catharines show, but I think it's not until September.
What's the venue?
Warehouse.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect.
We're
We've
there.
been there before.
Yeah. I'm still in the process of booking it and everything, but I'm still trying to iron out.
It's too late. You already said it on camera. You
Yeah.
have to do it.
September.
Hey,
We're going to make it happen for sure, but
If you're there, I'll go.
Yeah, gladly.
I'd love to have you guys out, man. It'd be awesome. You should.
The Warehouse is a fun little venue that used to be, a carpet store?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I don't have a choice because L3 is no longer really doing its thing, and,
Nope.
and Warehouse is the only one around here with like a fairly decent sound system, professional setup. But it's so tiny. That's my.
It
my-
is very
is.
small.
The individuals
I'm
that
worried about that.
the people that fill it are very passionate, and they have a decent beer selection, so that's good too.
So when you say you're worried, this may be a slight ego question. Are you worried that you have so many fans that people aren't going to be able to?
I have a
See
lot
you?
of friends
Okay.
and fans.
Okay.
Let's call them
Friends.
Friends.
Friends. Yeah, that's a good way to be.
call
Lots
them
of
friends.
Yeah.
And since I live around here,
Yeah, I
like,
guess
it's-
when you say you don't
it
perform,
adds up, man. It adds up, and sure, it might be egotistical to say, but I'm almost confident that it's going to be a sold out thing.
then do
Because
3
of the
shows.
size of the event, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about the size of the venue. I'm sorry. So I am concerned about that because it's like, well, what if my cousin doesn't get in, or like my mom? Well, obviously my mom's. But you know what I'm saying? It's just it presents issues in that regard.
What's the next step up for venue in the region, you think?
Meridian Center.
Because that's a huge leap, right?
The Performing Arts Center.
Yeah, it's a big
Which
leap.
I'm also quite focused on. There's even a small chance that it will be at the Performing Arts Center. Working on that right now. I'm not entirely sure. I
very
think capacity in there is about 820 or something.
It's a good capacity.
I think if I really market it and spread the word and put in some work, I could fill it. But who knows?
Well, we'd
So come out to the show.
Yeah, we'd love to
Yeah.
have you enjoy your summer, and then maybe before the show, you can come back on and talk about it again, and we can do our own way to
We'll
promote.
promote the show a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once I have a date, I
We
like
have
that
a
idea. Sounds
small
great.
fan base, but
I'd love to come back.
perfect. That's really just what I wanted to hear.
Yeah,
I was
man.
fishing
Well,
for
thank
that.
you guys for having me. No, this has been
This
good.
was fun. It's
Yes.
We got into some sensitive stuff, and we
I
got
didn't-
into some
I'm glad.
technical
Let's
stuff.
get some controversy behind us. Let's ride the wave.
well perfect.
By
And the
the way.
headline will just be like abortion talks.
No.
Is this live?
No.
Oh, okay. Because you can always cut out.
Yeah. No, we don't. We really haven't ever cut anything out except for one time.
Name
when
dropping
one of
a
our
person.
guests got a little drunk, started dropping names in
Yeah.
situations where she
Yeah,
shouldn't
for sure,
have.
for sure.
You
That's
were
not
professional about it,
Yeah.
so it was good.
All right.
One day we'll be live, but not right now.
One day.
Cool, man.
All right. Have a good day, viewers.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Signing
Thank
off.
you guys for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Much love.